Welcome back to the podcast. I have got the lovely Kylie Wolfig on today to celebrate some incredible results that she had with a recent surgery. Now, Kylie has done a more extensive interview with me with the background story of her journey, diving into the world of emotions, the results that she's reaped in her health, but also in her life. And I just wanted to get her on because she shared with me a breakthrough, and I just wanted to share it with all of you. So, Kylie, tell us a little bit of context and then just dive into what has happened recently.
Right. Well, a little bit of context. I've lost a lot of weight over the last 2 or 3 years, 60 kilos. And right now I'm going through the process of having skin removal surgery to tighten things up because I'm 55 now. So it didn't all bounce back like you'd want it to. So that's where I'm at right now.
Cool. And you've recovered amazingly well from many of your surgeries, but actually, this is the second time something like this has happened. So, tell us about what recently happened with your pre-op bloods, etc.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah, in December, I had a lower body lift. And 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I had a breast lift and side lift. So that's under the arms here. And when you have surgery, I live in Bangkok, so I had it done here. And when you go for surgery here, you have a very extensive pre-op done the day before the surgery to make sure everything's okay. You have, ECG, you have chest X-ray, a whole range of bloods, all the things. And because I have thyroid issues as well, that's got to be on track. So they do a lot of checking and, all that sort of stuff. But this time, I went in the day before for my pre-op, which is always, a day's excursion, and my platelets were really, really low. And my platelets are always kind of on the lower end anyway, probably because I have a few other things going on. But this time they were well under range. So the range is 150 and above is on the lower end. And I had, mine was 65, I think they were. And so they were like, no, we won't be operating at 65. And so they were like, okay, the only way we can go ahead with surgery tomorrow is if we give you a transfusion, a platelet transfusion. And I guess I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, oh, okay, radio. And so they said, we're going to keep you in hospital. So we'd arrived. My bag was packed and everything at home. Um, Ready to go for the next day. But they said, oh, no, no. They sent, Ollie home, my husband home, and I stayed in the hospital. And they said, we're going to try and give you a, transfusion straight away. And so they looked around for my blood, and I've got B negative blood. Turns out that's quite rare. It's like 2% of people in the world. I didn't know that. And so they couldn't find blood for me. And so all night they kept checking in on me, and I'm like, I'm here because I'm supposed to have the transfusion. When's it happening? And I was like, oh, we're still trying to find blood. We're still trying to find blood. The following morning, they were like, we couldn't get your blood. It's just nowhere. So we're going to test your blood one more time, and if it works, if it's risen, then we'll go ahead for surgery. So what had happened the night before, all night, I didn't know what else to do. Ollie had gone home. I didn't have anything with me. They gave me pajamas, all that sort of thing. And so I just sat there and did releases because it's something you can do with no pens and papers and things like that, right? So I did a release on my platelets. I did a release on my immune system. Then I turned to other things like, I'm going to do a release on my boobs. Maybe I don't want to let go of my boobs, because they were being lessened and taken away and all that sort of thing. So I just kind of did releases on anything I could think of, just random things, anything that I thought may have been hampering these results.
I love
And
that. Can we just clarify releases?
yeah,
Because I think a lot of people hear, "Oh, Kylie released, I'm gonna go release." And then they come back to me and say, "Oh, I did all these releases, it was really amazing." I'm like, "I haven't worked with you before. How are you doing these releases?" So, it's the release process that you learnt with me, right? And
yeah,
it was applying one of the variations because you were actually releasing on parts,
organs and parts of the
systems,
body.
yeah,
Yeah,
organ
yeah,
systems of your body,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
requires something a little bit different.
Yeah. And so to be clear, I learned the release process back in 2022. So I've been doing it a long time. So I know all the variations and I know what I could do and what potentially will work. And that's why I just lay there in the hospital bed, just got nothing better to do. I may as well see if I can, change the outcome here. But plus, it just makes you feel better. If it,
Mm.
it makes you gives you that little tiny sense of control, like even like everything's out of
Well, it's more
control.
just recognizing that you can actually influence things rather than control it, right?
Mm,
Okay, you gotta jump
yeah.
to the chase. Don't keep us in too much suspense. What
Okay.
happened?
So the next morning, they come and take my bloods, and then the hematologist shows up at my bedside and says, it's double because I had to get to 85. They wouldn't operate under 85. So even though that wasn't still in range, that was their marker of, for bleeding and so on. And it jumped to 137.
That's incredible.
And she was like, oh, I okay, we're good to go. So surgery went ahead that day. So, yeah.
I love that. How did you feel when you were told, "We can't operate unless your platelets go up"?
I was a little bit confused because I'd done all the emotional work, I'd done all the prep. I honestly went in feeling like there's no issues here. We're gonna smooth sailing. I've done this a couple of times already. I had the lower body lift, I was a little bit like, not confused, but I was a little bit like, "Hmm, I wasn't expecting that as an outcome." I was expecting everything to be because last time it was my thyroid. My
I
thyroid
know.
was
I was
too
gonna
high.
say, it was after you shared it with me, it's like, "Kylie, you have been here before. Pre-surgery, your thyroid levels were out of whack and they couldn't operate on you."
Reoccurrence.
And you actually yes, actually, that's another podcast episode we need to link to. So, your interview, Kylie, and then the one on recurrence and
Reoccurrence.
reoccurrence, because you just
Mm.
said a classic thing, and this is what I love, like, it's all in the moment, right, is I've done all the emotional work, and you and I have been having conversations how people say, I've done it, I've done it. It's like there's always other layers to it. And
Yeah.
then there is emotional work that is in the moment of your experience and
Mm.
having the wherewithal to go, right, what are my tools and what am I going to pull on right now? So I actually love that you just felt called to actually use this process. And in the meantime, I'm also having a pattern of a few other clients also changing their physiology literally
Mm.
within 24 hours. And I'm like, wow, I'm pretty convicted about this process. But when people are reaching out to me, sharing results like this, I'm like, holy cow.
Mm. Yeah, and there's no other reason for it. My husband thinks they got the labs wrong, but, that's that's the male, like, "Oh, no, that's what happened, right? That's all that happened." But, yeah, no, I find this process, it's just that easy thing. There's a lot of processes. I've learned a lot of processes. I've learned a lot of modalities in my lifetime, but none of which I could have done there apart from release because I didn't have books with me. I didn't have my computer with me. I didn't have anything. I was there. I stayed from my pre-op day, so I didn't have anything. And with this process, you don't need anything. You just
Yeah.
need your voice. That's
I
it.
know. I love that,
Yeah.
I love that, and all the practice and consistency that you've had as well, and the refinement and the feedback
Mm.
to be able to actually do it on your own, because I never want people to be reliant on having to see someone every time they wanna do an
I
emotional work
agree.
or experience one. It's like you are capable of utilizing this yourself, and
Mm.
who knows, there's
Yeah,
maybe other variations and deeper levels that we can take you when the time comes, when you're ready for it. Um,
absolutely.
I wanna just add in something else because you've had a number of surgeries and you've recovered remarkably well from them. So how was your recovery from the boob lift?
This time round, so super quick. Usually, you water is the enemy of scars. Anyone having any kind of surgery, you don't want water to interfere with the scars. So I've been hand washing in the bathtub. In Thailand, they've always got separate little hand things. So I've been washing in there so that I don't get the scars wet in any way, shape, or form. And I did that the same with the lower body lift and the face stuff. And it usually takes about 8 weeks to have all the last scabs on the scar healed over so that everything's fully sealed and you can get in the shower. I'm what, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks down. and I'm almost there. Like, I've got
Mm,
one tiny little scab that I'm waiting to heal over, and I'd say within the next day or 2, I can get in the shower. So I've halved that time. So this
that's
time's been
amazing.
really quick. Yeah.
Yeah. This is something else that I've noticed for clients going through some pretty major surgery, and I'd say that you've been through major surgery as well, is that their doctors or surgeons are like, "Wow, like, you don't want painkillers? Do you want like, you're just recovering remarkably well. We haven't seen this
Mm,
before." So, I love it, and it's an acknowledgement for the work that you've done. And, there's part of me is having a whole other million conversations in my head as you're sharing this beautiful story with me is that some people go, "Oh, right, I'm about to have surgery. Maybe I'll dive in and I'll learn the process." But it can work for some people, but it's more about the journey. And,
mm,
you've been doing this work long before getting to the point of surgery. And if people go and back and listen to the original interview, it's that this pathway has opened up for you. And something else that I just want to throw in here whilst I've got you as well is I really believe that people fall into this work at the right time and they cross paths with the right people. And you've been an amazing support person for me, and you've been on my missing link masterclass, and it was crazy because the long story short is that you got diagnosed with lipedema, which was
mm.
the explanation for all of the weight gain, and you never would have lost it through diet and exercise. And there just so happened to be someone on that masterclass who also had lipedema. And it's like, oh, you're not here for me, you're here for Kylie's story. So you shared on the
Yeah.
masterclass, and we recommended your interview. And yeah, because it's a condition that not a lot of people know about, but what I really love about you and how you share is really bringing in the emotions into your journey because
It's
what
what changed everything, Jen. It's
yeah,
like I had done everything. Even became the naturopath, spent 4 years studying all the things. It did not change the dial. It wasn't until I delved into the emotional work and learnt release that things changed because,
yeah,
we're mind, body, soul people. Until we incorporate the whole lot, we'll only get so far. So, yeah,
yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing this with me and sharing it with me so I could tell you, "Oh, this is going on in my collective field. This is going on with my one-to-one clients and people in groups," is together you're changing your physiology and you've been very intentional about it, and it's undeniable that it's the emotional work that's the thing that changes, that has yeah influenced these results. And so
absolutely.
thank you. If anyone is keen to learn about release, the best place to do that is in the release course with me. And the doors are open intermittently throughout the year. So you can always just check the link and see if it's open for early access or if we're about to start a live round. We will pop the link in the show notes. And if you explore some of my work, there are other ways that you can come across it. But if you want to learn the variations that Kylie has worked through, and I often say it's not just about the release process, it's about the coaching, it's about the interaction that you receive
Mm.
along the way, then really ultimately it's the release course that you dive in and trust in the timing. And if it feels right, that's where I love you to be drawn in, not from logic, not from your head, but just purely from a feeling that this is where you got to go. Dive deeper into your emotions. Um, Even if you've done emotional work, I can tell you that this is not your typical emotional work that's floating around.
It certainly isn't. It certainly isn't, and I highly recommend it, honestly, as a backup and for having your own back. That's what it's teaching you to do, to have your own
Yeah,
back.
amazing. Thanks so much, Kylie.
Thanks, Jen.